Welcome to the RotoWire College Basketball Sweet 16 preview show. I'm Jake Letarski, your college basketball editor. Lucky to be joined today above me by Adam Zdroik and Ryan Andrade, a couple of college basketball editors, bracketologists, news, injury gurus, all of that good stuff here. Today we're going to run down all of the Sweet 16 matchups here that are on the docket for Thursday, Friday. We'll talk about best bets. We'll talk about the matchups. We'll talk about maybe a little DFS or pick'em notes. We'll see here what we all have for you here. But we want to start off with BYU, Alabama. You can see that over under right there, by the way. We're referencing our college basketball advanced lineups page here. You can check that out on RotoWire here. We're going to rotowire.com/try, get all this full data here. We're going to start with BYU, Alabama. Full big time over under here, fastest pace game, good for DFS stacks here. Adam, I'm going to take it over to you first. Just let me know some general takes on the game. If there's a bet maybe that you're interested. Right now, it's looking like Alabama minus 215 on the money line and 5.5 point favorites with, like you said, that big total there.
Big total, 175.5. I've heard some people say they're kind of scared of taking the over, but this feels like both teams could hit 90 points in this game. You know, Alabama's going to want to run. I almost wonder if BYU just wants to try and slow it down a little bit, just so, they're not competing against the depth and athleticism of Alabama. So maybe they try and slow things down. They're not exactly one of those Houston types that's, in the 300s in terms of pace, but I wonder if they want to do that. But in terms of the matchups, I like what Alabama or BYU present just in terms of Igor Demon, Richie Saunders, these guys on the perimeter who have size. And I think overall their efficiency offensively is an advantage in this game. I think it seems like the way that Alabama plays, they want to run. It may just help BYU's offense score more points because Alabama's defense is their downfall, and it has been in the last few seasons. And going against this BYU offense, I feel like the way that Alabama plays, I know I just said maybe it's best that BYU slow things down. It almost seems that the way Alabama plays actually helps BYU. It feels like if BYU's offense just keeps rolling, which they had done for the last month, that they'll be able to score. So I kind of like the over in this one because I think both teams are going to be able to score.
Yeah, of course. I mean, BYU and Wisconsin just put up 180 points, and now we move to the fastest pace tempo here in the country with Alabama here. Ryan, what are you thinking for this game?
Yeah, I mean, same sort of thing. I think, if you had to ask BYU of all the 1 and 2 seeds they could have faced, I think Alabama would 100% be the team they would take just because, they're not that super great defensive team like a Houston or somebody that's giving them problems. Bama kind of plays the same way they want to play. So, super high total, but why not hit the over on this one? I think it's going to be up and down. I think really my biggest question is who does BYU put on Mark Sears, right? Because when the shots aren't falling, when things aren't going quite right for Alabama, they just put the ball in his hands and let him just go to the rim, get to the free throw line. It'll be interesting to see. You could put Igor on Sears. I don't know if he'd be able to stay in front of him, but he'd certainly be able to take away some of his outside looks for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sears can absolutely take over a game, give Bama a chance against anybody. But, if he's not having it, this could be real close. So real quick here, Alabama minus 5.5. Adam, what do you think? Yes or no? Do they cover that, or you like BYU to get in there?
I'm going BYU money line. So I like the plus 5.5. I just think their offense is flowing too well right now, and Alabama's defense just isn't going to be enough to stop them. So let's go money line here, BYU.
Yep. All right, Adam, how about you?
Yeah, I like that. I think the bigs for BYU as well have been playing really well, and we know Grant Nelson is still recovering a little bit from that knee injury. So, that might be another advantage BYU can exploit as well. But yeah, I like BYU plus 5.5. But
yeah, stable of bigs for BYU, Keita, Meg, Traore, all these guys. Whereas
fresh in Jake's mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, way too fresh. Of course, a Badger fan up here. You probably see a Badger hat and some Lambeau Field behind me, so you get that. All right, let's keep things moving here and head to Maryland and Florida. 7:39 Eastern tip-off here. Florida, of course, the number 1 seed and the public bracket favorite seemingly this year. Another roughly 5.5-point favorite for the Gators here, and of course, taking on Maryland, who was fresh off Derek Queen's buzzer beater to follow Colorado State's buzzer beater in one of the best games of the tournament so far here. So I'll go to Ryan first here. Can Florida keep it rolling, or are they going to have trouble with the Terps?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this game, you look at like both starting fives and you put them up against each other. And honestly, like Maryland might be the one you pick. You know, you got all 5 starters averaging over 12 points per game. You know, you got the great bigs of Queen and Reese down low, each averaging over 9 rebounds a game. But, you know, it's depth. That's sort of the question here. You know, Florida's got basically 4 starters in the front court they can throw out there whenever they want to. And, you know, you would think that they would just try to pound those guys down low and hope they can get them into foul trouble and get them off the floor. I mean, I think that might end up being Maryland's downfall in this game, but if they're able to avoid that, I mean, we know that it's what, 5.5, 6.5, something like that. So, I mean, Maryland has played in close games all year, and, you know, I don't think they've lost a game that's more than like 5 or 6 points. So, I think this is going to be one that goes down to the wire, but I think the depth of Florida probably takes over in the end.
Yeah, that's the big thing with Florida, being able to easily go too deep at every position. Have so many bigs, especially after Micah Handlogton's back, that their 7'9" freshman is able to take a red shirt this year, which I always thought was funny. Maybe we'll see Rue next year. Adam, what are you thinking? Are you with Ryan?
Yeah, looking at the expected score in this 82 to 75.5-ish. It seems kind of high, just based off we saw UConn give Florida trouble because they slowed things down. They got into a half-court game. You look at the numbers for Maryland, they run it a bit. They go on the fast breaks a lot. They shoot it early in the shot clock, but their defense is slower, is almost near 300 in terms of pace. And I think that Maryland Kevin Willard, should take that UConn approach. Just slow things down. You don't want to get back and forth with this deep Florida team. And I think that's the best route for Maryland to have success. So I kind of like the under here. That number getting close to 160 just seems like a big number in a game I don't think Maryland's actually going to run. So, and Maryland, if you look at the numbers since February 8th, about 13, 14 games for every team, Maryland is the number 2 defense efficiency wise in the country. And that's why they're having success. It's not because, okay, Derek Queen and Reese, their offense has been awesome. It's been mostly their defense. They're playing lower scoring games. Their defense has come through in most situations here. I actually also think the Maryland guards are kind of hit or miss. Rice, Gillespie, and Miguel. I'm sure Jake has seen this a lot in the Big Ten. These guys, it's like, at least in the games I've seen from them, even in that game against Colorado State, all of them struggled in the first half. Then all of a sudden, a couple were hitting threes. It seems like these guys can go cold at any moment. And so I'm going to be on Florida, and I'm also going to be on the under here. But I just think Willard and Maryland wants to play things a little slow.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, Maryland, the X factor is Gillespie, who was their second leading scorer. Queen eventually surpassed him. But, in the last 6 games, his highest total was 17. That wasn't even a postseason game here. So he's kind of the X factor. He could come out and get hot and did what he did in Big Ten play and make this game closer than it thinks. But for me, I'm taking Florida. I'm taking Florida and the points. Florida was my national champion pick. I still have Florida over Duke in the title game, though Duke's making me a little concerned about that outcome here. We'll get to them a little bit later, but Florida's my national title pick for the reasons that Ryan suggested. It's just their guard play and just the depth of forwards. It doesn't matter if anyone gets in foul trouble or anything like that. They can just keep throwing guys out there at you, and that makes them a matchup problem for anyone, because normally against Maryland, the bigs are the strength, but that'll get negated by Florida. So give me Florida and the points here in this one. And I mentioned Duke, my other national title pick here, at least in my bracket pools. And Duke and Arizona will be tipping off next. That's a 9:39 Eastern tip-off on Thursday here. Duke, pretty big favorites, actually. Biggest favorites of the Thursday slated game, the Thursday or Friday slate, really, here. 9.5 points, over under 154.5 here. Cooper Flagg is back. He's at full strength. He's ready to go here. Adam, is this the route that the books are expecting? Maybe not a route, but as far as these games go, is this as lopsided as the books suggest?
I think it is. From what you're hearing from a lot of people, it's just like, okay, it's pretty much up to Caleb Love. Can he continue what he's done in the prior couple games? And, for the most part of the season, he's always been a player. It's like, okay, he's in big games, he kind of falls apart a little bit. Outside of the Duke games with UNC, I guess I should mention that. But I went through a lot of games. Their first two games in the tournament for Arizona, played a bunch of small guards. Oregon, Akron, small guards. Duke doesn't have a small guard problem. They're big across the board. That's one of the reasons they're a matchup problem for basically every team they're going to face the rest of the way. They're big. Cooper Flagg can do a little bit of everything. We saw the game between these teams earlier in the season, 69-55, 55 points for Arizona in that game. I just don't think they're going to play they're going to be able to play their brand of basketball against Duke. And you see this expected score here, 72 points. I'm one of my bets just going to be taking under in Arizona. So I don't have to worry about taking the overall under on the total score here, just taking the Arizona under. And if it's, if Duke gets up to 80, 90 points, then I don't got to worry about the total. I'm just going to take the under on Arizona. Cause I think similar to that last game, I think they're going to have trouble, getting consistent good looks.
Yep. Right on. Ryan, over to you here. You think Arizona's got a shot?
I think it'll be a tricky game for Duke a little bit. I think Arizona is probably one of the more physical teams they will have played in a while. I think this Arizona team to start the season really struggled, just wasn't there. And then I feel like they sort of gained their stride, in conference play. And I think they have a lot of guys that they could throw at Cooper Flagg. They have, whether it's a Vasar, big, tall, lanky guy, whether it's a Carter Bryant, 6'8" guy, Trey Townsend, sort of a bigger build, 6'6" guy. I mean, they have a lot of different ways, and I think that's going to be important for Arizona is just to mix up the looks defensively. I do agree with Adam that I think that's going to be a big issue for Arizona is all the length on the perimeter from Duke, all those guards. We've said Duke is the biggest team in the country, basically across the board. So that's going to be a challenge. But I think, really it's going to come down to whether if Arizona is able to cover this total, it's going to come down to them being able to hit 3-point shots. And they haven't really done a great job of doing that consistently all year, but they're going to need some good games from some of the others, Jaden Bradley, KJ Lewis, Del Orso, some of those guys to be able to hit some shots from the outside just to sort of keep the momentum and, just keep it going. But I think Arizona has the physical tools to be able to cover this game.
Yeah, absolutely here. And again, you look at the Arizona team sheet, everything's pretty much in green except for 3-point shooting. They're 195th in the country in 3-point shooting. And so that means, if Duke gets to a double-digit lead early on, they might have a tough time, erasing that. So that's going to be one big factor here. And the other thing with Duke, I actually have two more notes on Duke. One is, like you said, Tyrese Proctor, one of the few upperclassmen in that rotation, is starting to play his best games of the year in the tournament. 19 in the opening round, 25 against Baylor. That was huge. He's got 6 threes in 3 consecutive games here, including that 6-pack in the ACC championship game. Pretty lopsided win over Louisville. So Proctor stepping up his play is one of the reasons why, if I redid my bracket, maybe I'd take Duke over Florida instead if I did this. But I do think Duke runs away with this, and I actually give him a pretty decent chance to cover. The other note I had here has to do with Malik Brown for the Blue Devils. Missed those first couple tournament games with that shoulder injury he's been battling all year. We're seeing that he might actually be available. He's considered day-to-day right now at the moment. And, Kaman Maluak is a good center, but he's a freshman. He's a little bit raw. And after him, they go to guys like Ndongba and but Malik Brown. They're the Duke's at their best when they can switch to Malik Brown, who's also very good defensively, and maybe even gives them a little bit more of a threat of a threat offensively. And you think this Duke team that already looks like the best in the field, getting another key rotation piece back is only going to help their case here. So I definitely like them to cruise as well here. Before our next preview, though, just want to take a quick moment to remind you to head to rotowire.com/try. That gives you a 48-hour trial to everything you see, like these advanced lineup pages here. No strings attached, no credit card required here. Team previews, profiles, daily best bets, pick'em columns, and regional previews for every single thing. And of course, the all-important player news, injury updates here. Ryan's got a great article up on the website right now. That one's actually free. It just runs on all the key injuries here in these Sweet 16 matchups. But remember, that's rotowire.com/try for a free trial, no credit card required. And hey, that's not college basketball specific. Opening days tomorrow. You can use that to check out our baseball tools as well here. One more game here to check out on the Thursday Sweet 16 slate. And that is Texas Tech against Arkansas, tipping off at roughly 10:09 Eastern on Thursday. Texas Tech minus 235 on the money line here. About 5.5-point favorites. Total on that game is 149. Because the injury situation with Arkansas has been so unique in this tournament, and you have such a good command on it, I'm going to lead it over with you, Ryan, so you can give me kind of the status of Arkansas's players, Boogie Fland, Thero, and if that is enough to keep really the only remaining. It's tough to call a Calipari team a Cinderella, but the only real high seed that's left in this tournament here. Are we giving them a shot against Texas Tech now that they're getting healthier?
Yeah, I mean, they're in a good spot now. I mean, Adu Thero, who's missed about a month with a knee injury, he's going to play in this one on a minutes restriction. I would imagine it's something similar that we saw the opening weekend that they did with Boogie Fland, who missed about 2 months there. He played about 20 minutes per game in their first two contests. Wasn't super effective, but was at least nice to have, another ball handler on the floor. I think, he might get fully released to just play as many minutes as they need him to. But Thero, I think, he could be a big weapon in this one, especially, on the defensive end. Texas Tech has all these quick guards. They got, some, a Darian Williams, a guy that can sort of an undersized four-man that can move around all over the place. I think that'd be a really good matchup rather than putting a guy like Brazil on him or something like that. Texas Tech has had their own injury issues. Chance McMillan probably been their best perimeter scorer this year. A lot of people thought he was going to play. They elected to sit him. Hopefully he's able to come back. Haven't really heard any update on him, but those are definitely two guys to watch here in this matchup.
All right. Sending it back over to you, Adam. Kind of same questions here. You think the return of these players really helps Arkansas keep this one tight against what's been a pretty tough Texas Tech team all season long? They're 8 on KenPom, 5th in offensive efficiency. Where are you looking to target maybe bets in this game, and we'll chalk prevail?
This one's pretty difficult because basically all the reasons Ryan mentioned, just this Arkansas team, you kind of look at the last couple games compared to what they've done all season. They're the worst team left over in terms of KenPom, and even if you take those numbers over the last month, they're still not great numbers. Take those numbers in the tournament, they have one of the best 2-point defenses that's played these two games. Obviously, small sample size, but so that's one of the reasons. How is this team going to play? They're still a bad shooting team. Everyone likes to bring up, Michigan State. I'm not going to pick them because they can't shoot the three. But Arkansas is shooting less than 30% from three over the last month. They haven't shot much better in the tournament. Are these guys going to start shooting better? And the question for Texas Tech, they've had these wildly two different games in their tournament. And it doesn't, Chance McMillan, I've looked up plenty of stuff trying to find out what's going on with him. It's just like upper body stuff. And this game is going to be on the West Coast. He's back home. He's from California. He's posted stuff about it. I don't know if he's going to play. Texas Tech, I've liked them throughout the season, but I kind of wonder what they're going to do against defensively against Adu and Trevon Brazil on the boards. I think that's the big question here. I know Toppin and Williams can have success offensively, but I think the length and size overall of Brazil and Adu might be a problem here. And like you look at all the numbers and it's like, well, I'm not going to pick Arkansas to win this game if you just look at the numbers, but I don't know. I don't think there's like a noticeable edge here for Texas Tech, especially if McMillian doesn't play. So this is probably one of the games I like the least in terms of just betting on it, but I'd probably lean on Arkansas plus the points just because I don't have like a massive lean either way. And we're getting, almost 6 points here with Arkansas.
Yeah, this is for me the same thing, and I got to call at least one upset here in the chalky tournament. So I guess it's a dog or pass situation, really, and I'll take Arkansas on the money line at plus 200. Why the heck not here? I do think McMillan will play, but there might be some rust, as we saw with Arkansas. They got Boogie Flan back right at the beginning of the year, and or right at the beginning of the tournament, and he was, another 15-point-a-game scorer that definitely had some rust in those first couple games, and I think, he'll tighten it up, and he might be a guard capable of taking over. This is a projected NBA lottery pick here, and if they get Thero back even on any kind of restriction, like he'll at least relieve Brazil a little bit. Brazil had a little bit of foul trouble in their last game, though. So that's just another big depth piece for the Razorbacks here. And yeah, I'll take Arkansas to move along to the Elite Eight. And also, I do. I remember thinking like after he transferred from Tennessee and our preseason projections and everything, that he was going to have, this good year, and it hasn't materialized. But now that the tournament's here, he is playing his best ball of the season too. So you've got this team that's sinking, that's getting healthier, that's good to go here. And I'll take Calipari to win the chess match against McCaslin and Arkansas to keep him moving here. But so that'll be a fun one here. Let's shift things over to the Friday slate of games. Another 4 Sweet 16 games on Friday, tipping off at 7:09 p.m. Eastern. We have Ole Miss and Michigan State here. Ole Miss being another one of those SEC teams to get through, while Michigan State is one of 3 Big Ten teams, I believe, left here. Adam, this is your school. I got to go to you first on this one. Michigan State minus 3.5, one of the tighter games on here. Do you think Jace Richardson and company can keep this rolling?
I think so. I like the matchup. I'm interested to hear what you guys say. I've listened to a ton of stuff throughout the week, and some people are just looking at Ole Miss's recent numbers. I think matchup-wise, this is a better matchup for Michigan State compared to even the last couple games, just size-wise. The Michigan State can throw all guards on the perimeter against Padula and Jalen Murray, 2 guys that are fairly shorter. And I think, they just did it against Donovan Dent, who's at 6'2". Padula, 6 foot, Murray about 6 foot. I think the 4 guards for Michigan State going to cause a lot of confusion on the perimeter. The wild card is Malik Dia. I'm not sure, what to expect from him on a possession by possession basis. And I don't know if Chris Beard knows what to expect from him either. But sometimes he hits threes. Sometimes he does a little bit of everything. But if you just look at the numbers here from Ole Miss, there's only 2 teams in the Sweet 16 that are ranked top 10 in efficiency across the first 2 games in the tournament, Ole Miss and Houston. And is Houston going to keep playing like they've played? Are they going to just hit 50% of threes? Michigan State, the number 1 3-point defense in the country. I just don't think Ole Miss is going to keep shooting at that rate. And they aren't a team that attacks offensive glass. So if they're missing more shots than they've made in their prior couple games, and they revert back to what their numbers have looked like all season, I just like Michigan State here. I think it is going to be another under game where both teams, it's going to be kind of dirty a little bit, but I'm interested to see what you guys are thinking here in terms of what this matchup looks like.
Yeah, I'll take it on over to Ryan first. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think it's a great matchup for Michigan State. I think when you look at it, Ole Miss, they have not been a good rebounding team all year, and I feel like Michigan State's been one of the best rebounding teams all season. And that just doesn't, they got Ole Miss. They shot the ball great against Iowa State, but they got beat on the boards pretty bad in that one. So that that's definitely a big thing in this game. I also like that you mentioned, Michigan State, they're so good at taking away the three. It was also impressive that they were able to survive, Jace Richardson's first bad game in a month, 6 weeks or something like that. So
all season almost.
Yeah. I mean,
the starting lineup,
Yeah. I mean, I think that was big for them to get some confidence from, some of the other guys there. And, I feel like Michigan State, whatever happens in the first half, once it clicks over the second half, they just refocus, or I don't know what exactly happens, but it feels like every second half they kind of just switch things on. But
halftime drugs.
Yeah. Izzo feeds them something. So,
all right,
but no, I think for Ole Miss to win this game, I think we got to see the Matthew Murrell of old. I mean, I'm not exactly. I guess it's just Padulia coming in, some of the other guys, but I mean, this was a dude that was one of the best scorers in the SEC last year, and he's been super inconsistent. I mean, he's averaging 10.7 points per game this year, which is the lowest since he was a freshman. So they need sort of a throwback game for him. I think if they're going to pull the upset in this one.
Exactly. And you can see only 8.6 over his last 5 here too. So it's not like anything's been turned up for the postseason here. I had a couple notes on this one. One, Ole Miss protects the basketball really well, third best offensive turnover rate, and Michigan State doesn't really create a ton of turnovers. I think they're around 245 in defensive turnover rate. So that could keep things close for a while. But in the end, what it comes down to me is, you look at Ole Miss's path to get here. They beat North Carolina, even though they were in control of that game pretty much throughout. They beat North Carolina, who probably wasn't supposed to be here in the first place. They beat Iowa State, who was, probably the consensus worst 3 seed after, losing one of their best players for the year. And now they're going to get a really, really tough test here. And I'm going to pick Michigan State to advance here because, and like you said, I don't think Jace Richardson's going to go 1 for 10 from the field again. I think we're going to really start ramping up that father-son story of Jason Richardson taking him all the way back in 2000. I don't know. Maybe I haven't watched these games as close as you, Adam, but I thought they were going to play that story like crazy, and maybe it'll heat up here as Michigan State continues to advance here. But yeah, it's Michigan State for me across the board. I'll even take them to cover here too.
Heck.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know what the square rules are on the channel here yet. It's been a minute since I was last on here. All right, though, let's go to another fun matchup here. This one is all SEC. We have 7:39 Eastern tip-off, Tennessee and Kentucky here. Tennessee minus 190 favorites on the money line, 4-point favorites, totals 144.5. Everyone's going to want to talk about how Kentucky is maybe Tennessee's kryptonite. Because Kentucky has beat them twice this year, and Tennessee has had good quality wins against everybody else in the SEC. Just had a tough time with Big Blue here. So I'll start with you, Ryan. What does Tennessee have to do to set things straight and turn this around?
Well, I think they need to attack the interior more. I think, Kentucky, they're pretty good at defending the 3-point line, but, you can get in there and get some work done on some of those guys. They're 287th in 2-point percentage defense allowed. They don't turn other teams over at all. So I think really just attacking the basket, not falling in love, not Chaz Lanier jacking up, 18 3-pointers. That's going to be the formula for Tennessee to lose again, I think, in this one. I think Kobe Barea was so good in that game last week against Illinois, really sort of took over in the second half. And I think, he's another guy where, we know how great of a 3-point shooter he is, but, he's got some size and some length to be able to, take a couple steps in or get all the way to the rim. And so, both those games, Tennessee did out rebound Kentucky. The first meeting they didn't have Lamont Butler, which was even more impressive that Kentucky was able to win that game. The second meeting, it was kind of just a story of the 3-point line. Kentucky shot 12 of 24. Tennessee shot 3 of 18. So can they survive an off shooting night from Chaz Lanier? I don't think so. They haven't really been able to do it all year. When he's not going, this team doesn't really go. So I would definitely lean towards Kentucky in the 4.5.
All right. What about you, Adam?
That's tough. I always got to agree with Ryan here, but the numbers on this 4.5 and Palm is 4 points. I mean, these are full season numbers, and I think you just look at it like Tennessee has kind of played like the same team all season. I don't think they've gotten better over the tournament. It seems like Kentucky is probably playing its best basketball right now. I know the matchups. It's okay. Illinois doesn't really play defense, so how much are we gonna put into that? But I think if you just look at these teams, I know, right, 12 of 24 in both the prior games is crazy 3-point shooting numbers against Tennessee, and they're probably not going to do that again. But I think if you just look at the matchups, Lamont Butler completely took out Jakachonis last game, and Zakai Ziegler here going against Lamont Butler. If Lamont Butler kind of just prevents Ziegler from, as Ryan said, getting to the hoop, preventing him from even getting in open shots, doing whatever, that just takes away their guard, their main creator. So who else is going to step up here? Meshack isn't really an offensive option. Their bigs aren't really consistent options. And then, as Ryan said, is it going to be Chaz Lanier just chucking up shots, which it might be. Kentucky, another team. I think Kentucky, thinking in the future here, what if Kentucky plays Duke? Kentucky is one of the only teams left here that actually has the size to deal with Duke. And they got size all over. Owe, Carr, Butler, and Brea are bigger guards as well. And they got Amari Williams has been awesome in the tournament. I just think this 4.5, it seems like, I don't know, it seems like we're getting played with a little bit. The fact that the number is bigger than what it is at Ken Palm, even though Kentucky is probably, playing better than it has, it feels like this game should be 3.5, 2.5 maybe, but it's 4.5. It almost seems like we're getting played here with the spread, and Kentucky's going to go like 3 of 24 from 3, and Tennessee's going to win, something like that.
Yeah, crazy. A lot of people give you the rationale, well, it's tough to beat a team 3 times. That's a pretty square thing to say. I think Kentucky, gets it done here as well. You touched on Lamont Butler. That's the main thing I wanted to touch on. Such a good defender, the 5th-year senior, transfer from San Diego State here. He had 14 points against Illinois on just a 14% usage rate here. So he is healthy now. I mean, he's had various injury troubles this year, but 2 starts in a row, 25 and then 33 minutes. I think he's about as close to 100%, as he's been in a while here. And then he has, the extra rest there. So Kentucky and I mean, Amari Williams here is another guy for Kentucky I want to highlight. 6'10" senior. He's second on the team in assists. So their big man's a great passer. They can beat you in a lot of ways. And yeah, if Butler shuts down Ziegler and it's up to Lanier to play hero ball, I don't know if it can happen. So yeah, that's the kind of the story there. We're not too much arguing, all in agreement on that one here. Maybe that'll change here when we jump to the next matchup. That's between Auburn and Michigan. Auburn, the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. They are 9-point favorites over Michigan, minus 425 on the money line, over under 154.5. That game tips off at 9:39 Eastern. I guess I'll go to your state again, Adam, and let you kick this off here. What does Michigan have to do to keep it close?
If they can get another career game out of Roddy Gale, then that would be very helpful. That game came out of nowhere. Gale was basically a nobody all season. He was a nobody in the Big Ten. It just kind of came out of nowhere. If he repeats that, hey, I mean, they could just win on the money line here and get the upset because he was hitting every shot. LJ Cason has come on as well as another guard. Because the problem with Michigan this season, at least in the second half of the season, their guards just have been inconsistent. They haven't been very good. Donaldson going against his former team here at Auburn is going to be a talking point, but he hasn't really shown up at a consistent rate. Burnett barely played. As Gale was good last game. Jones is more of a defensive guy. I think the bigs kind of got figured out a little bit by Michigan in the Big Ten later in the season. So this matchup between we got Broome and Cardwell, the bigs against bigs, who's going to win out here? I don't know if that's going to actually decide the game. It could be, that could be the talking point. Okay. Bigs against bigs, but both these teams have extremely inconsistent guards. Miles Kelly didn't really show up last game. Pettiford showed up last game. Baker Mazara could be tossed in the first 5 minutes. He's all over the place. I think he's fine after his hip issue that he had in the last game, but, these two teams, I think it's going to be close. I think it can be close because that's kind of what Michigan does. I don't see Auburn just completely, preventing Golden and Wolf doing what they do. And at some point, maybe Michigan has some confidence from Gale going off last game. Maybe their guards are actually a little better in this one. So I'm probably going to just take Michigan to cover, even though I don't want to tell everyone that, but there you go.
Yeah, it's one of those, if you got to make a bet, that's the one, but maybe this is an avoid here. I don't know. I think the Baker Mazara narrative everyone says, I think he's heard plenty of that, and that makes me a little less worried about that. But yeah, over to you, Ryan. Where are you leading on this game? You know, we talk a lot about the Michigan bigs here. Can they keep Janai Broome in check?
Yeah, for me, the story is, who does Janai Broome cover? Is it Danny Wolf? Is it Vlad Golden? I mean, I feel like, obviously they have Cardwell in there. It might be more of a Dylan Cardwell game where Broome is playing a lot more at the 4. And I feel like, Auburn's a little bit more explosive offensively when it's Broome at the 5 and they got, a lot more shooters around him. So that could sort of affect things for Auburn on the offensive side. If Broome is having to chase Danny Wolf running off all these ball screens and running all these pick and rolls, I mean, that'll be interesting. That might wear him down on the other side of the ball. I think the game will be decided, though, between, I think, whoever wins the matchup with Todd Pettiford and who's the other guard? Donaldson, yeah. Yeah, those two guys, I feel like whoever wins that matchup is probably going to be the winner, because I feel like, honestly, we've been able to rely on the bigs of Auburn, the bigs of Michigan all season, but those guys each, when they play well, each team is just a different looking group offensively. So I think Pettiford, he's so explosive. I think he's really one of the few Auburn guys that can actually create his own shot. So I think he's going to be a very important piece, not just in this game, but if they're able to advance and potentially take on a Michigan State team as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you as far as Pettiford being the key. I always wondered over the season, obviously Auburn has National Player of the Year candidate Janai Broome. Him and Flagg have been neck and neck in the race for those all year long. But Auburn, they sit at number 3 in efficiency now on offense. They have been number 1 for part of the year, and I know the numbers lead us there. But I'm thinking, who in the backcourt really is propelling that? Do they have guards that can take over? And so far in this tournament, it's been Pettiford scoring 16 and 23 points. His usage is ramping up. He doesn't even start, by the way. But if he continues to play even close to this, I think Auburn probably runs away with it. I don't love a 9-point spread. This is probably, a pass from me, but I guess I'd pick, Michigan on the spread, if I had to make a pick there. But all right, here, last game of the slate. We have got a 10:09 Eastern tip-off between Houston and Purdue. Matt Painter keeps finding ways to get to the Sweet 16. And Houston, big favorites here, is the number 1 seed once again. My 7.5-point favorites, they play at a much slower pace, so we have a 132.5 over-under on this game here. Houston minus 360 on the money line. Ryan, what are you looking out for in this particular game here? And will Houston continue to keep up these maximum efficiency performances we've seen over the first couple of rounds?
Yeah, I think it's just a really bad matchup for Purdue when you look at it. I mean, Purdue has been one of the worst teams among, your power conferences in terms of defending the paint. I mean, obviously they've struggled with Zach Edey leaving and not having that big guy you can just plant there and work the rest of your defense around. Guys have been able to come through the lane. They haven't offered much resistance there. And I think, we know Houston, they're going to want to attack the paint. They're going to want to get after the offensive glass. I just think it's a really bad matchup for Purdue here. And, you look at it also, Purdue has one ball handler pretty much in Braden Smith. And I think after this game, that might be the most tired he's ever been after a single game after Houston gets through with him, because they're just going to have guys that are going to hound him the entire game. They're great at turning people over. This Houston team too, they don't shoot a lot of threes, but they're the best in the country from percentage wise from out there. So when they need to hit a shot, they certainly got the guys that can step up and make them.
Kelvin Sampson definitely retooled to via the portal to beef up that backcourt, and has another incredible squad here. Adam, what are you thinking here?
It's hard to argue. Ryan's reading my thoughts here. Purdue since February 8th, 118 in the country defensive efficiency. That's not very good. They can't guard anyone. How are they going to guard Houston here with their guards? And this is basically has to be Matt Painter coaching up his team and finding wide open threes. Cox has to hit threes. Lawyer has to hit threes. First has to step up. It can't all be Braden Smith and Kaufman-Renn. This feels like a blowout spot for Houston. I think their defense is just going to cause all kinds of issues. And then offensively, I think they're going to get all kinds of easy looks. It's up to Matt Painter to solve this, because you can't find the holes here. Fletcher Lawyer always struggles against physical defenses. He's going to struggle in this spot unless he's hitting fadeaway threes all of a sudden. Braden Smith has a turnover problem. Kaufman-Renn is good as a post presence and an athletic, smaller post presence, but Houston's going to throw bodies at him. He needs 30 points in this game for Purdue to have a chance, and I don't think he's getting 30 points. So I'm thinking I might extend this minus 14.5 for Houston. I'm thinking a big win. Nothing points to Purdue keeping this game close.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Purdue beating High Point and McNeese, quality mid-majors, but still mid-majors to get here. And, of course, Braden Smith turning the ball over 8 times against McNeese. Braden Smith has played 39 or more minutes in all of his last 5 games here. If he's going to come out and do that again against this defense, I like the point Ryan made. It's just it's going to be way too much for Purdue. In what's been a chalky tournament, the chalk is going to continue here, at least with this matchup in the Sweet 16. So, to recap, not a whole lot for upsets. We give Arkansas a shot, but other than that, 1 seed's all advancing, and, we'll see what the Final Four looks like for you next week here. Any final thoughts, guys?
Yeah, you want to give some Final Four projections here?
Final Four projections. Let's see here. I mean, I'm sticking to what we had here. It looks like all 1 seeds for the second time in history.
All 1 seeds? Come on.
Yeah, dude,
I still got Michigan State. I think I just really like the way they've been playing coming out of the South. I think honestly, Arizona is a tougher matchup for Duke than Alabama or BYU would be. So I like Duke there. Down in the West, I expect Texas Tech to beat Arkansas. Florida, it's hard to see Texas Tech knocking them off. And then Houston, I do really like Kentucky, but Houston's been just crazy good this year. I mean, they have 1 loss since the start of December. They played in the Big 12. I mean, that's hard to believe.
Nation's longest actor.
They should have 2 losses. I'll mention right now, because Kansas absolutely blew 1 game in February against them.
Yeah.
6-point leads with 16 seconds left are not safe.
Double OT thriller.
Yeah.
Right on here. All right.
Kansas will always have that game.
Well, yeah. I mean, I hate to be boring and do the chalk here, but I just think that the amount of difference between these top complete teams and the next tier is just too great here. And the theme of the tournament's been chalk, and I think we're going to keep seeing that. If you've listened to any of my content leading up to this, talking about how Cinderella is dead, that pretty much played out like that here in the first week of the tournament. But yeah, all right. Well, that's going to wrap things up for us here. Ryan, Adam, thanks for joining, running through these games here. RotoWire.com/try on the bottom. Check out all these pages that we're viewing, and all the DFS tools, all the baseball stuff, everything you might need. Thanks again for joining us, everyone, and maybe we'll catch you for a little preview next week.
Let's go.